قرآني نبض حياتي، قرآني طهر ذاتي، قرآني عصمة أمري، قرآني طوق نجاتي. قرآني نبض حياتي، قرآني طهر ذاتي، قرآني عصمة أمري، قرآني
were shooting the incident from the rooftop when the shooting started. Is this coincidental? Or is it the sophistication of CCTV surveillance? The cameraman were wearing bulletproof vests. Is it coincidental? The footage was edited. Masked men shout Allahu Akbar clearly when they can be filmed. They shoot a police officer, but there was no blood at close range. The brain would have exploded. These are questions people are asking. Yet they get away in broad daylight. And besides that, they leave behind their ID card so they can be identified. The report claims there were 3 people in the killing. Somehow the third one has a classmate witness. He was at school at the time. The 2 masked men could not be traced via CCTV in the entire Paris of their movement, in spite of saying that when the shooting took place, they were filmed. Is it just coincidental? Further to that, they take hostage in a, guess where? In a kosher shop. They take Jewish hostages. They get killed. There is no trace left to establish the truth. The men were identified within minutes as Muslims. And what their motives were without knowing them. The hostage saga lasts 3 days. The incident gets maximum worldwide publicity. And out of all this, Israel capitalizes maximum publicity. Netanyahu warns France, recognizing Palestine was a great mistake. These are some of the questions that are asked. However, having said what we have said, and having shared some of the questions that have been asked, let's talk about what is our response. How should we respond? What is the rationale or the rational response to this? As Muslims, let us make it absolutely clear that Muslims do not endorse, nor do we sanction or encourage extrajudicial killings. As Muslims, we do not believe in kangaroo court justice. As Muslims, no individual is permitted to take the law into his own hands. And without being apologetic, as a statement of fact, this needs to be mentioned. This is what Islam is all about. At the same time, it is truly tragic. It is tragic and sad that some became angry at some cartoonists and killed them and many others. Let us also make mention, whilst we are at this, that the laws of Islam are very clear. A criminal remains a criminal despite his religious beliefs, irrespective if it is an individual who goes out to kill innocent people or going to kill people in accordance to his own view, or organized, institutionalized terror by governments in spite of their justification Islam does not permit extrajudicial killings. Having said that, knowing what the Prophet ﷺ was, and knowing what the Sharia commands us to do, would have prevented this. Knowing, in spite of what has happened, if people who had committed this, if it was committed, and if it was committed by Muslims, if they would have known the commands of the Quran and the Sharia and the commands of the Prophet ﷺ and his teachings, this act could have been prevented. The fact of the matter is that killing such people goes against Islam. It goes against the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Those who thought that they were defending the Prophet rather ended up maybe harming the prestige of Islam, and this causes much more damage than any potential good. But having said that, we do not shed tears for the racist, hateful staff of Charlie Hebdo who took such pleasure in spitting at 1.6 billion Muslims. We do feel pity for them, pity that they chose to live. We feel pity for them, pity that they chose to live a life of hate and die a death of hate. We pity them for being consumed and blinded by such racist aversion. At the same time, as we condemn that violence and as we disassociate ourselves from such actions without being apologetic because we did not commit that and nor does Islam permit that, we also have to point out that violence is not occurring in a vacuum. And by simply pointing out the reasons that have led to this act, we are not justifying or sympathizing by, just like in America, when some mass shooter goes on a rampage in a school and the media talks about his childhood and what had happened. Similarly, we want to talk about these people's personalities. Stay tuned. We will continue with this very crucial, important discussion as we continue in the session Islam in Context. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
قرآني نبض حياتي، قرآني طهر ذاتي، قرآني عصمة أمري، قرآني طوق نجاتي. قرآني نبض حياتي، قرآني طهر ذاتي، قرآني عصمة أمري، قرآني طوق نجاتي. قرآني نبض حياتي، قرآني طهر ذاتي، قرآني عصمة أمري، قرآني طوق نجاتي. قرآني نبض حياتي، قرآني طهر ذاتي، قرآني عصمة أمري.